You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series that syndicates for the A-List Online, and my name, of course, is Andrew Mackay-Smith. Hope you're well wherever you are in the world, and I know you are all over the world because I get correspondence from you, and I appreciate the fact that you are tuning in. Now, the reason for the chat today is because it's with Dave Davidson from Revocation. Now, there are a few others that I've been looking forward to a conversation with as much as this one with Dave, and he's a good bloke, and the reason for the chat is to promote Revocation's appearances alongside Cattle Decapitation in Australia this February. So I'm going to read out some dates. The first show is right here in Brisbane on the 13th of Feb at the Brightside. Sydney, you're next on the 14th, which is a Friday at Factory Theatre. Newcastle has a show at the Cambridge Hotel. Mr. Bungle played there back in 1996. Just as a bit of trivia information there for you if it ever comes up. That show's on Saturday the 15th of Feb. Canberra, you've got a show at the Basement on Sunday, Feb 16. Melbourne, you get yours on Wednesday 19 at Max Watts. And Frankston, which I suppose is a suburb of Melbourne, you've got a show on Thursday the 20th of Feb at Pelly Bar. There's a few more shows to go. Gosh, this is very comprehensive. Adelaide, you've got a show at the Enigma Bar. Friday the 21st, that will go off, that one there, being on a Friday night. As will this one at Amplifier Bar on Saturday the 22nd of Feb. That's in Perth. So here he is, Dave Davidson from the outstanding technical death metal outfit Revocation.
Hey, what's up, man?
Yeah, I was just about to give you a buzz, but this is nice, mate. Thanks for giving me a buzz. No worries. Hey, mate, I noticed with your Skype profile here, you do lessons as well. I bet you're pretty popular with that, I'd imagine. Jesus, with the technique that you're offering people that they can employ.
I've got a good clientele of students that I've had for a very long time, which is really great because I can really sort of see their progress, and you just develop a good rapport.
And look, one of the things that I've always loved about your playing is, and I'm a massive fan of jazz, and I can hear how much jazz is in your playing. So is that something that you teach students as well? Because, mate, I mean, and it goes without saying, mate, you're a magnificent player.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I incorporate a lot of jazz into my guitar lessons. I mean, obviously, it sort of depends on the student, but if they have an open mind, I always try to pull that in. I transcribe solos that I'll bring to the table that we can kind of learn together, or I'll work from other transcriptions. Just getting the vocabulary down in terms of sort of chord knowledge, scales, theory. I feel like jazz really pulls all of that in because obviously you need to, have a great ear and know that stuff in order to be a good improviser. So. Yeah, it's something that I definitely enjoy working with or working on with my students.
Yeah, sweet. Yeah. Look, I don't think I need to tell you how revered yourself and the band are in Australia, because you're coming back down for the second time in 2 years, which is a real thrill, because I didn't get to see you guys the last time you came down when you were playing with Psychroptic. But, yourself, Dan, and the rest of the band, you're always welcome down here. And I think this is the tour to support the outer ones. I could be wrong, or is it just a great opportunity for you to come and play for the Australian fans again?
Well, yeah, I mean, the outer ones has been out for, I think, a year now or whatever, but certainly, I don't think we played any of these songs in Australia yet, so we're definitely still on the outer ones tour cycle. For us, like a tour cycle generally lasts like around, 2.5 years, depending on how busy we are and what the interest is before we go and start working on the next one.
And was that received as well as you may have hoped? Because, I mean, look, my perception might be skewed here, but I feel like as though Revocation's popularity is only growing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it seems like every record we sort of climb the ladder a few more rungs each time, and with the outer ones, I sort of saw the biggest leap. I think with this album cycle, it really set us apart in terms of, showing that we can be headliners when we go out, but also our support tours have gotten, bigger, and, just in general, I feel like the response from the fans has been so great with this record. I think it's a combination of the material being really good and just us continuing to grind and being around. Sometimes you need to kind of hit people over the head like several times with your music or with your promotion for them to even just sort of pay attention, right? Because there's so many things that are vying for our attention these days. But with this last one, I feel like so many people took notice, and I think it only reinforced our current fan base and grew the band to a bunch of new fans. So that's always the hope, right?
Oh, bloody oath it is. Yeah, yeah, it is. Yeah, and look, I know you've been doing this for a while now, and look, I'm actually a genuine fan of the band. I love what you guys are doing, and I think I first heard you guys around the same time I worked out that maybe Necrophagists weren't going to be releasing any new material anytime soon, so 2010 or so, thereabouts, so a couple of albums after you first came out. But I feel, now correct me if I'm wrong, that Revocation really stepped into a void that I think was left by Necrophagist. So is that feedback that you've been given before?
Um, Not really. I mean, I think we've maybe been compared to different bands in the death metal and technical death metal realm, but
Mm,
I think we kind of do our own thing. I mean, I think Necrophagists are obviously amazing, but I definitely think we write differently than them.
sure. Yep.
So, but yeah, I mean, they were definitely an influence on us. Look, everyone's going to have their own sort of take on different people's sounds. Sometimes people hear influences more so than others, or sometimes people are like, "Oh, you guys must be influenced by this band," when in
Mm,
reality we weren't really influenced by them that much. So, but I think certainly with the outer ones, it's definitely our, and I've said this in interviews before, it's our most death metal album to date. We really
sure.
sort of embraced that death metal element of our sound and really ran with it. So
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, yeah. It was just more the blend of technicality, musicianship, but not wanky musicianship, if you know what I'm saying. Just to use part of the Australian vernacular, there, it was musicianship for the sake of what the song needed, and that's what I think I liked about what yourself and Muhammad share. And the other thing is, and I've got to hand you a really big compliment here. I'm a massive Chuck Schuldiner fan. Death. I mean, I'm in my 40s, so I remember them when they were around in the early 90s, and you were one of the first people that came along that I felt was a spiritual successor to the work that Chuck Schuldiner was doing. Now, surely, to goodness, you've heard that, you've been given that feedback before.
Yeah, I mean, we're hugely influenced by Death, and I really appreciate that. I mean, Death is definitely one of the bands that I can credit to, why I play death metal today. I mean, I remember listening to, I think I actually started with Symbolic, I want to say.
Nice, yeah, good starting point, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just an incredible record. But I mean, their whole catalog is great, and I mean, there's multiple reasons why where I love Death. But one of them is they were sort of never afraid to evolve, right? If you listen to
Agreed.
like Leprosy to uh, individual thought patterns to Symbolic to Sign of Perseverance, every record they were pushing the envelope and really kind of changing their style. I mean, even Chuck's vocal style changed throughout the course of the years. So
Mm,
I was really inspired by that and how you can sort of take a band and really evolve with it. I think the metal fans out there are so great because they allow a lot of times they allow artists to be artists and
yeah,
to take those risks and to take those chances. I feel like sometimes bands in other genres, maybe they get sort of like pigeonholed, or they have to sort of do the flavor of the month to stay relevant. But with metal, at least with our fans anyway, they seem to be really hungry for change and for experimentation. So as an
mm,
artist, that's very freeing, that I know I can just kind of do whatever I'm feeling, and probably our fan base will support that. Actually, funny story about Death. We were Death for Halloween, like way back in the day. I think even before Revocation, but with my old band, we
wow,
played a,
okay.
a song off of every record.
Jeez, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
and
incredible,
there's a
yeah.
there's a pull the plug cover floating around online out there that you can find. We did a cover for Decibel magazine for their Flexi series way back when. So I think that's on YouTube.
That's awesome. Yeah, yeah. I'm so glad that you've been given that feedback before, and what you just mentioned there about death. Yeah, I think I'm of the view Now, I'm no scholar on these things here, but I'm of the view that in the fullness of time that people like yourself and Chuck Schuldiner, you'll be discovered in, say, hundreds of years' time. Now, I don't want this to come across as an airy-fairy statement, but I truly believe the impact of the music that you're writing is universal, and that people will find this in the same way that they find, say, Schubert and Mozart now from hundreds
Thank
of
you
years
so
ago.
much. That's a huge compliment. Thank you. I think for me, I mean that's the hope, right? Is that your music will stand the test of time, right?
Mm.
Like I think all truly great music has a timeless quality and sort of crosses boundary lines in terms of like like you don't have to be a classical fan to respect classical music. You know what I mean? Or to know that Mozart or Chopin or Stravinsky were amazing composers in the same way, you can be sort of like a casual, you don't have to like know everything about jazz to understand that, John Coltrane was one of the greatest musicians to ever live. I mean, you can just sort of hear, it's like undeniable, so, thank you so much for that great compliment. I
No,
appreciate that.
well earned and deserved. And look, the other thing, mate, about you is, look, my preamble here is I'm a bassist, and I try to sing and play at the same time. So Mark King is about my alpha and omega. So I do mimic and look at Mark King videos from level 42, of course, and try to deploy what he does, nowhere near the way he does it, but of course, but I do try. But, mate, you're on a very similar level. From the perspective of very technical guitar lines, and you're also bloody singing. So I've got to ask, are there times when you're up there on stage you think, oh man, I should have simplified this riff when I'm trying to sing at the same time?
Yeah, there's definitely been times where because I don't write like the vocals to sort of fit the riff, if that makes any sense. I write the riff and then I sort of hear a vocal pattern over it while I'm writing lyrics and stuff like that,
Mm.
which to me I think lends itself to having the vocals sound creative, and fit on top as like kind of like a counterpoint to the riff, but it also makes my job very hard sometimes. So yeah, sometimes I write a riff and I've got like a cool vocal pattern, and when it's all said and done after it's been recorded, I try to play it. I'm like, oh shit, how am I going to do this? But I guess that's the challenge of music. I mean, anything that we're doing in a technical death metal realm is gonna be hard in some regard, right? So it's just a lot of practice and taking it slow and just trying to hone your craft.
I had a chat to Trey Exagto's mother, of course, from Morbid Angel, because it's near impossible to have a chat to Trey himself these days.
Yeah.
And one of the things, because Trey was probably the first extreme metal guitarist I really truly got into, and then I found Chuck and a few others. But the question that I had for Trey's mother was, when did you know that he was a guitarist? Like, when he picked up the guitar, did he just start playing it and it made sense? And she said, yes. There was a moment he was at his uncle's house and he picked it up and he started strumming it. And he says, I like the way this feels, and he's just never put the guitar down. Because of your accomplished playing and your ability on the guitar, yeah, sure, you've got the talent, but you've obviously worked bloody hard to mine your talent too, as Trey did. So, was there a moment for you too when you were a young fella and you picked up the guitar and went, "This is what I want to do"?
Yeah, I think I pretty much felt the connection like almost immediately with the guitar. I remember seeing an Aerosmith music video and just really being enamored with Joe Perry's playing. I mean, I asked my mom to get me a guitar, and I pestered her for a while. And we went to a music store. She got me a guitar. She started me on lessons, and yeah, just sort of right away I made a connection to the instrument. I think there's always going to be sort of some learning curve, right? So in the beginning I was practicing as much as I could, but like when the ability is not there, you're not really enjoying what you're hearing. So I actually do remember being sort of frustrated early on, like my fingers weren't doing what I wanted them to do, and just being like, yeah, I got to put this thing down because I'm gonna break it in half if I keep trying to play this. But take a deep breath and you keep coming back to it and you practice. And I feel like sometimes actually sleeping on it really
Yes.
makes a world of difference. Like sometimes like you can't play something, and then something happens in your brain when that sleep cycle, like things kind of reset and like the synapses all of a sudden lock into place, and you can play something that you couldn't have played the day before, or you could play it like much better than before. So it's it was a slow process early on, but once I started getting into it, I mean, I would play like 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a day, like just like get home from school and just like go to my parents' basement and just like play like all afternoon into the night, like with my favorite records.
Yeah, sweet. Yeah, well, you can tell because you're certainly accomplished enough. And, mate, I think I've got these interviews are always over so quickly. Got all the questions I'd love to ask you, but I've got one more for you.
Sure.
The artwork on the outer ones, I think, is brilliant. And look, even for my podcast series, I reached out to Mark Cooper, who worked with Lucas and the guys in Rings of Saturn as well. But I love what you've done here with the outer ones, with the artwork. But my question for you is your philosophy on band art, heavy metal, in heavy metal too, is it important, or is it just one of those things that accompanies the music?
No, I think it's incredibly important. I've always been a fan of art history. Not just in the metal world, but um, you know, different art periods throughout time, the Renaissance, all the way up through abstract expressionism. And I studied a little bit of art history in college, and I just became so fascinated with it because to me art history is world history, right? I mean, it's a
Indeed, yeah.
it's and to quote Bertolt Brecht, he said art is not a mirror to reflect society, but a hammer with which to shape it. So I think art plays an incredibly important role, and I don't take the role of art lightly. And if I'm on tour and there's like a museum nearby that I want to see, even if my other guys like don't want to go, oftentimes I'll just go on a solo mission and just soak in these like treasures from history, and I feel really inspired standing in the presence of that just incredible talent from ages past. So obviously, when we're thinking about artwork for the band, I want it to match the music. It's like anything, we sort of like take in the vibe with our eyes first, right? I mean, even online when an album gets announced, like generally like it's usually announced like with the album cover. So before you even hit play, you're seeing the visual of what the album cover is. And I bought records as a kid just based off of
Yeah,
the
likewise.
album
Yeah,
cover. It's like going through the store, before the internet was like what we know it is today. When I
exactly.
was a kid shopping at like random record stores, I mean, I remember seeing like Butchered at Birth as a kid, just being generally like disturbed by the album cover.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think artwork is incredibly important. I think it fits with the aesthetic of, or hopefully will fit with the aesthetic of the music. And it's great to work with different artists because so many of them like have similar musical influences, right? Visual artists, I mean. So it's awesome to chat with these guys who are just as into the music that you are, but they're coming at it from like a totally different medium. So Tom Strum, the artist who did the Outer Ones, is a close friend of mine, and
Cool.
we've had just such a good relationship over the years, and he's delivered 3 incredible album covers for us.
Mate, as I say, these things are always over too quickly, mate. But look, congratulations on an epic career. I'll definitely be at the show. I'm not missing out this time, that's for sure. So yourselves and Cattle Decapitation in Brisbane. I think it's sold out. They had to move the venue in Brisbane to a bigger one. So, mate,
Yeah, that's great.
it's great news, man. It's great news for you guys. It's great news for our city. It's great news for the health of death metal, man. So, man, just please keep on doing what you're doing. I love listening to what you guys are doing.
Thank you so much, man. Great interview. I really appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you there. Please come say hi. I hope everything's going okay with all the wildfires and stuff like that
Oh,
down
thanks,
there.
brother. Thanks for thinking of us, man. Yeah, I think it's improving. Thank God. We've had rain in the last 2 weeks. So,
Good, good.
yeah,
Thank God. Yeah, it's so heartbreaking to see.
yeah. All right, mate. Good luck with it all. Appreciate it again.
All right, take care, brother. I'll see you soon.
For sure, man. All right. You've been listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series that syndicates for the A-List Online, and my name's Andrew Mackay-Smith. That interview subject was the one and only David Davidson from the Boston, Massachusetts outfit, Revocation. Thanks for listening.